Hey, good morning and welcome to Breakthrough Walls. I'm Ken Walls and I'm your host. And today we have the one and only Linda Kaye on the show. Um, you guys are going to love this woman's story. It's amazing. She has an unbelievable story, like literally unbelievable. So, um, please do me a favor and share this out with everyone that you know right now. Share it out before we go any further. Let's get everybody to share this out and wait until you hear this real estate mogul, author, speaker. She's amazing. Wait till you hear her story. You're going to love it. So share this out. We'll be right back. And we are back. Let me bring Linda Kaye on. Linda, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Ken. Thanks for having me. Great to see you, everyone.
I am so happy to have you on here. Good morning or evening, Dennis in China, my brother from another mother over there in China. So Linda, I started this show a little over 5 years ago.
Amazing.
And it is unbelievable that we're still going.
Looks like you've got
Nobody's.
something to say then, Ken.
What's that?
I said it sounds like you've got something to say.
Well, listen, this is about you. So this is, I started this because honestly, at the time I was kind of stuck in life. And I thought, if I just listen to enough successful people tell me how they got unstuck, I'll figure it out. And that's kind of what's happened. And so I'm excited to hear your whole story. And I want to start with you telling everybody where you were born and raised. And I'm going to give you full screen, by the way. So tell everybody where you were born and raised.
So I was born in Minot, North Dakota. Now, that's something that a lot of people don't think because, I've been in California most of my life. But
Wow.
My parents had the good sense to know that I really was a California girl in heart. So they moved here to California back when I was 3.
You almost did it. You almost did it.
No, almost.
So, so, so when you were 3 years old, so about 10 years ago.
Yeah, that's it.
Right. So, no, when you were 3, you moved to California from North Dakota. Why North Dakota? Why were you even in North Dakota to begin with? Who lives in North Dakota?
So my grandparents who immigrated from the Ukraine and then homesteaded to North Dakota because there was free land. And like that 40 acres and a mule kind of thing.
Yeah.
The trouble with homesteading back in the day was that you had to fence the land and then put a house on it. Now, I don't know if you know anything about North Dakota, Ken, but it is flat.
Is it flat?
There's no trees there unless you bring them in. They're not indigenous. No.
What?
The only trees that really grow are around the bodies of water and lakes, but it's tundra.
North Dakota's treeless and flat?
Think of it lots and lots of wheat fields and things like that and
Wow.
oil. You don't need trees for any of that, right?
I did not know that.
Yeah, it's kind of crazy. Most people don't think of North Dakota as treeless because they kind of associate it with South Dakota, which you've got the Black Hills of South Dakota,
Yeah.
Where Mount Rushmore is. And
Right.
you think of all those trees, but could you imagine having to haul those up on wagons to build things?
From South Dakota.
From South Dakota. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. Crazy, isn't it?
That's nuts. So
So then my mom, who had a skin condition, went to the hot springs of Montana, where she met my dad.
oh wow.
So they get married, and mom just went for a treatment, but came back with a husband. So she didn't come back for a couple of years. Like, I'll be back, mom, soon.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow, your mom went to the hot springs. Did it help her?
It actually did, but I think getting married helped her more.
Oh my gosh. Okay, so they went back to South Dakota
No, North Dakota.
or North Dakota, I mean,
Yes.
from Montana.
So two of my
Wow.
brothers were born in Montana, my two older brothers. And then my next older brother, where was he born? I think, he was born in Minot also. So
Mm.
I was born in Minot. And then my next brother is born in Fargo. And I think that's when my dad said, we've gone too far. Let's get out of here. It's cold, right? I mean,
Right.
you're talking about 30 and 40 below typically in the winter, wind
That's
chill factor, right?
yeah, yep.
Miserable. You're
Mm,
talking about the upper north, northwest.
yeah,
Very sensible, commonsensical kinds of people, and lovely, but
yeah.
just too damn cold.
It's cold. It is so cold there.
But everyone, so this is I write about this in a book that I co-wrote with my mom, Miracles on My Doorstep. It's a miracle we actually got here. They put the trailer that shouldn't have been. I mean, can you think of anything crazier? 45-foot trailer with one axle, like two wheels, one on each side, and they're going to balance this thing and go out to California. Yep, we're headed to California. Let's go.
Good thing you don't have to go over any big mountains on the way.
Oh,
I'll
we
hold it.
did. We did. We sure did.
That's
Donner's
insane.
Pass, okay? And if you look up Donner's Pass, it is the
Wow.
one of the most dangerous highways in the world.
Oh my God.
Yeah, let's just go there just before it snows. Okay, great. So they loaded up the truck, and there were, I like to say that there were four on the floor, but those were the kids. So
Wow.
four on the floor, one on the seat, and so he was a baby.
So
Yes, he was a
five
baby.
of you. Five of you.
There were five. There would be another four in California.
Wow. Donner's Pass played that on Oregon Trail. Nick said.
Yes, right. I said, could you imagine this? A Donner party of three. I'm sorry,
Wow.
there'll only be one of us, right? Because
Oh
they
my.
cannibalized and ate each other. So it was
Jeez.
crazy. It was a crazy, crazy time.
So yeah, there were 5 kids in the car pulling a 45-foot trailer with one axle.
Yeah.
That I mean, that's like the
They
length of
didn't
a
have those
semi
kind of
truck
rules back in the
almost.
day, Ken. Come on now. You just, it looks like it's on wheels. Let's just roll, right?
That's insane.
It is
Okay,
pretty
so
insane.
obviously you made it to California. What part of California did you end up in?
They rolled on into Riverside, and my parents had my mom had an aunt and uh, cousins,
Okay.
and actually they were, I guess. So so this would have been an aunt and cousins and a great aunt. So uh, my grandfather, who passed way too early in life, my mom was 18 when she lost her dad.
Oh,
And
geez.
so his sister lived in California along with her sister's mom. Now, Moira was a character. Moira didn't speak much English. In fact, when in California, she used to ride the trolley in Chula Vista.
Oh.
And Moira, my mom used to say we hated to have Aunt Moira come over. Why? Well, because she chanted in the morning. Could you imagine a little 5-foot woman all dressed in black with this kind of swirling dervish kind of thing and going woo and howling, literally getting herself and working herself up into a spiritual frenzy. My
Wow.
mom goes, man, that's scaring me. Does she have to do that in the house, Mom? Well, that was her father's sister. So of course, when Moira came to town, Moira and Jacob, nice Jewish names, and so
Wow.
they they
Wow.
uh, they were, I'm sure, quite a sight to see. But in California, Moira had kind of tamed it down, and she didn't really have much English. She didn't have any reason for English. She spoke Russian, and kept
Wow.
the Upper Bank of America, if you know what I mean, with enough change to get on that trolley going back and forth pretty much every day. So she got out and she did a lot of stuff. But I never
Wow.
met Moira, but I have heard tons of stories about
W-
Moira.
What did your parents do for a living?
So dad was in the plaster trade. So he had picked up a trade in Montana and went union. He worked on the uh, brand new Rochester, Minnesota hospital. And then decided it's just too cold and work is too far in between. So let's go to where there's, not such inclement weather, and I'll have steady work year round, which was a good thing because there were nine of us to
Yeah.
feed nine of us. Can you imagine, Ken?
Wow.
I mean, I
No.
only have one child, and I have had times, as we all have challenges, but I can't imagine every single day a challenge. But as a kid, you don't think about this. You think about fun. We're
Yeah.
close to the beach. We're growing up. We're in San Diego, so we uh,
Wow.
we never thought about, gosh, we're going to miss a meal, or hey, it's hamburger again. In fact, we thought it was a
Well,
treat.
yeah. Can you imagine? I've been through that where you only have one or two children, and there's been times in my life where it's like, how are we eating today? Imagine having nine of you. Like, that's crazy,
I don't know. You know what? I'm going to go out on a limb on this and say, it's a Grant Cardone moment. Why 2x, 10x them?
right? No kidding. Holy
Because
crap.
if you're fixing a big pot of stew or you're fixing a big pot of whatever, you know, um, it is easy to fix for 10 or 12 people. And in
Yeah.
fact, that was the hardest thing for me when I got out of high school and went off to college. I'm no longer living at home, right? So it was hard for me to scale it down and only cook for one person. I mean, I
Wow.
would, my roommates would come in. You having company? No, it's just me. There's like, enough food for 15 people.
Right. Oh my God.
It was
So
crazy.
that, well, you kind of answered my next question, and that was going to be, did you end up going to college? What did you major in college? What was your studies?
So, growing up with seven brothers, highly competitive brothers who loved to get attention, I had to figure out a way to get my own attention. And so I did things that they didn't want to do. I mean, I sat down and studied piano, and mom was a piano teacher. So she had the largest piano studio in San Diego. There's a little bit of pressure. I'm just going to say peer pressure. If you're the
Wow.
daughter of the biggest piano studio's teacher,
Wow.
you better step up and be really good. And so it was fun
Jeez.
because it was competitive. And listen, competing with my brothers for attention, this was far easier because I didn't have to wrestle with anyone. I, I didn't have to climb a tree faster than anybody. I mean, that's what it was growing up with seven brothers. So when I could sit down at the piano, I took that one on because I said, you know what? There's only one piano in the orchestra. There's only one pianist in front of a choir. There's only one piano in a band. I
Right.
thought, I'm the show. I'm gonna be it.
Right.
And I was the it girl.
Wow.
And I figured out how to do a whole lot of things because I could do something that other people wanted or needed. So figuring out how to fill a gap, yeah, it just kind of came natural. And then competing, making sure nobody else sat on that piano bench but me. Well, that was easy. So I became a piano major. I was a
Wow.
San Diego State. I was a music major.
Okay. So I missed something, Linda. You left North Dakota with 5 kids, and now I'm hearing about 7. Where did the other 2 come in?
So my sister was born 8 years after me, and
Oh.
then we have the baby. So it went 3 boys, a girl. I'm the first girl. 3 boys, a girl, and then amen.
Oh my gosh. Wow. Good Lord.
Oh,
Wow. So, and
but
my dad is the oldest of 7 boys, and I just
that's pretty big
I
family.
know, I think about, like, I remember asking my grandmother when she was still alive. I'm like, how in the world did you do it? I mean, she said, I'd have had 7 more if I could have.
Oh my God. Listen, and not one of us was, a twin or a triplet. We
That's
were all
ins
one after the other, 1 year after the other. So, there's just literally, I was, my next older brother was my Irish twin. He was born, literally a month and a year. No,
Wow.
a week and a year from my birthday. So I was
Wow.
born a week and a year later. So it's kind of crazy. But my mom said, I just cried with joy and happiness that you weren't a boy. Well, I am too, frankly.
Well, so you ended up studying piano in college. That was your major. Which is unbelievable. And so you are not, in fact, the real estate ninja I thought you were. You're an internationally famous pianist.
Oh, yes. We had the Cherries. Okay. That was the name of my all girl band. I won't tell you what our motto was because this is a family show. But
Yeah. Wow.
but we would
Wow.
we were running into all female bands, and we would just get etched out one after another, and I eventually said, okay, I'm gonna just do the Vegas, Tahoe, Reno circuit, and I played with all kinds of interesting acts, including Mac Davis. You picked a fine time to leave me.
Wow.
Yeah, that was a lot of fun.
No
So,
kidding.
but good things will come to an end because in the music business, it is a youth oriented business. So your choices when you grow up, not like today, where you can publish your own stuff and,
Yeah.
and tour and do whatever you want. My choices at that time was go into Christian music, gospel music, or country music. Okay. So I didn't want to do country. I'm not black, so I couldn't do gospel. And I didn't know it. I was like, okay, what else can I do? And, when you have a choice, when you have no choice, you have, your decision matrix is a little different. But I had a few choices, and I went into sales because I thought,
Sales.
yeah,
Let me
sales.
leave the piano and go into sales.
Well,
Makes
when I
perfect
was
sense.
no, think about it now, Ken. And it does make perfect sense. I'm on a stage. I'm selling a song. What's
Right?
could be any different than selling a product or
Right.
selling a service? It's the same thing.
Right.
It's
Yeah.
showtime.
Yeah. Right. Wow. So okay, what did you start selling?
I don't remember back then, but I sucked at it. I really, really was bad. I
Yeah.
didn't really have any other marketable skills, so I thought, well, I better figure this out. And there's always going to be a recession like every 7 years, or there's
Yeah.
going to be a disaster that comes up. You've got to figure stuff out.
Yep.
And I looked around and said, okay, we're in a high tech. Let me get into being technical. Now, most people that know me go, come on, you can't be serious. But
Right.
I was assigned to really big name corporations at that time. Arthur Anderson, the big names, GM, Hughes,
Wow.
because I figured out how to do things, and early on figured out I was a problem solver. I didn't know that at the time. It was just like, oh, well, that's interesting. Oh, let's get that, because the discipline that I had learning how to play an instrument
Yeah.
or is like the discipline of learning multiple languages or learning your craft. But turns out that skill set is transferable. And so what I wanted to do was figure out how to do something, and I would just spend the time to focus on it, spend the time to needle away at it, ask a million questions. How does it do that? Why does it work? And having a natural curiosity really kind of led me to being able to do a lot more things than I ever thought it would be possible. And after 5 years of that, I started looking, and I'm like figuring things out, and I'm the in demand systems engineer that goes out on all of these sales calls, and I'm watching the sales guys watch me do my show, do my thing, and help them position themselves to close big sales. And I'm like, well, that
Wow.
just sucks. I want those big bucks too. And so
Congratulations.
I got into that's when it really made the transfer into sales and started selling technology. But that yearning in me still wanted to go back and still wanted to do the music. So I
Now,
got back into the music industry and started doing some different types of things and things that I never would have expected would be successful.
and this was all occurring around what age?
I was in my 30s at
Okay.
this time. So, and
Joe Ingram says it's hard to read your whiteboard with it blurred out.
I don't think I have a whiteboard, do I?
No, I don't think you do. Nobody can tell
Okay.
what's in your background. But so 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 you were and you were that's when you realized, wait, the sales people closing the deals are making the big bucks.
Yeah, and now how do I get into and it just doesn't dawn on me that hey, let's go after some big ticket items. I'm just kind my interest in sales was more from a curiosity. Can I do this? Can I do that? Can I sell these? And so somehow or another, I talked myself into and talked somebody else into hiring me to do independent promotion. I was trying to
Wow.
sell my own songs. I was packaging things up. I was, selling artist packages. So I would co-produce and co-write songs with different artists. And uh, all of a sudden, I found myself, pitching something to the A&R guy at one of the studios back in the day when you
Wow.
still had A&R
Yeah.
and studios really meant something. And I got a chance to go do independent promotion on Janet Jackson's big breakthrough comeback, 1814 Rhythm Nation, and
Wow.
pre-sold 3 million units. I did things like, calling stations and we did drop-ins all across the country. So like, hi, this is Janet Jackson on KGLH, wishing you a very Merry Christmas. So those are called drop-ins. And so I did that
Wow.
across the country. She's a lovely,
Wow.
lovely human being. And then did listening parties where you go into clubs and you sell this stuff to jobbers that were selling discs and selling wax at that time. And so, I
Good.
mean, it
Hold
doesn't.
it. So you worked for Janet Jackson?
Yeah,
I did not know that
I
about
actually
you. And
worked for the studio that did the work. So I was an indie. So I was
wow.
hired as an indie, but met her many times, and had an opportunity to sit in the back of the limo with her a few times.
Oh my gosh, that's pretty amazing.
Yeah, that was pretty amazing. That you know what a mega hit that entire album was.
Miss Jackson, if you're nasty.
Well, that was the one before that, but this is when
Oh,
she finally hooked up with Jimmy Jam and Terry Lewis, and I mean, it was
wow.
a mega hit. You know, so she was kind of on her way out, and I had to listen to the A&R guy tell her why she didn't have any money because her dad was managing her career at the time, and that was disappointing. But having her and I met Michael at that time, and having them do their own breakaways and doing their own things, that was it was an exciting time. It was like,
Yeah.
wow, big stars and taking big risks, and I don't know, something just kind of clicked with me. On my next project, I got to work with Barry White on his comeback album, The Man Is Back. So I, did
What?
his US, his US tour. Yeah, it was, it was fun. It was
Wow.
interesting, but all good things will come to an end, because you've got to, you've always got to be thinking about what's next, what's next, what's
Yeah.
next.
Yeah.
And in that business, it's a fleeting next. It's not
Wow.
like, you've got social media influencers today. And no, if you don't have a hit and a reason to be out there promoting something, you can risk that your career is pretty much flattened out and over. But
Well,
Janet is one of the artists that has been a sustaining artist for her entire career. She's done
I love Janet Jackson.
she's
She's
awesome.
amazing. She's amazing.
She's
So
awesome.
and she back in the day at least she could dance her butt off. She was unbelievable. But now did you because you said you had a child. Did you have a child during all of this too?
No, it
Oh,
was actually a surprise. When my business melted down and I decided I got to go, when things really get too hot. I was teaching on the campus of Cal Arts High School, so it was the all arts high schools on the campus of Cal State LA, and it was a performing arts school, and so it's one of the only and largest here on the West Coast. But
Wow.
I was early on teaching and teaching performance, teaching the business of business and being in the business. So again, just kind of crafting and finding what do you need and figuring out what sells. So I was able to use a lot of my skill sets, but when the contract didn't renew and things were just not right in Los Angeles, as they say, if the can't take the heat in the kitchen, get out.
Yeah.
So I went north, and up north is where I had my child, and
Northern California.
San Francisco.
Oh, wow. Okay.
So and I met my husband then, and he didn't live in San Francisco, but he did come. He worked for the same company that I was working for. So now I'm back in tech sales, and I'm managing and figuring out. And I think the best close that I ever did was tell him, we're at this age, we don't really need a lot of time to figure out, are we right for each other? Let's get married.
Wow.
And he was like, I don't know. I think we should probably, spend some time getting to know each other. And I'm like, you want to wait for that? And then I won't be available. So you got to figure, so just literally take yourself off the market.
You're like, I need a baby.
Oh my God. I had a baby already, right?
Oh.
So I'm trying to figure out, how am I going to raise my child, right? How am I, so we get married, and my favorite story is, I tell him that, you got to put a ring on it. You got to put a ring on it. And it's got to be, you've got to do 2 times your annual salary. This guy was making a boatload of money, and he's like, yeah, I don't think so. You could have like a lot of diamonds.
Is that the rule?
Well, that was a rule I gave him.
Oh my God.
And he says, well, based on what? And I said, well, it's kind of, it's a guy thing. It's like a size thing. So when guys look at, your ring, they think about, how wealthy or how well will that guy take care of you? He goes, really? Does that really work that way? Oh, yes, it does. I got myself a nice 4-carat diamond out of that.
Oh my
Oh
God.
yeah, we were like, and everybody was like, how did you do that?
Wow.
Which was kind of fun and kind of interesting. But he was my $1 million man. I mean, between the two of us, we made well into the 7 figures.
That's amazing.
And he got me to come back to California, and I said, the only way I'll come back to LA is if I move as far north out of LA as possible. Okay. And that's how I ended up in Malibu.
In Malibu, okay. So there's my wife, and Jose's watching too.
Hey, Jose.
And Jill's on here too. So,
hi, Jill.
So you ended up. Jill did not get a ring that was double my annual salary. Thanks for putting that in her head, Linda.
There's still time.
Thanks for being on the show. Nice to have you on. So I'm kidding. So you ended up moving back to LA or Malibu, and thank you for sharing. Jose shared this out. Thank you, brother. I appreciate that. So you ended up in Malibu, which I've never been to, but you ended up in Malibu.
You're welcome anytime.
Thank you. And where did things go? How old was your baby at this point?
So it was a pivoting moment. Elena was almost a year old when I got married.
Okay.
And the marriage, the marriage was an interesting and fun and fast track. We traveled, we did all kinds of things. Everything was first class. Putting Elena on the new Disney boat and going off to the Bahamas. It was a magical time. It's funny because, money isn't everything, but money can fix a whole lot of things. And so, living in a lifestyle that I had never experienced before was an exciting time. But I remember watching Elena, and she was about 4.5 years old.
Yeah.
And I looked at her with pride as she tied Dan's shoelaces. And it wasn't because she was learning how to tie shoelaces, it's because he had forgotten. My $1 million man had a stroke on Father's
Oh,
Day in 2000. And it was a massive, massive stroke. Now, this man was only 42 years old when this happened. We
wow.
didn't know anything about deep vein thrombosis. We didn't know about a lot of things that we know a lot about today. But he had a CVA, or cardiovascular arrest. And I had no idea. I wasn't even supposed to be home that weekend. I was going to go to San Diego, and it was Father's Day. And he says, well, I'll just put you on a plane. Just go tomorrow morning. And about 4 o'clock in the morning, I'm hearing, something groping around on the floor. I turn on the light, and it's him just trying to crawl back to his bed. And
Oh
I'll
my
tell you, my Ken and Barbie life changed like that. He went from being $1 million winner to he couldn't even remember his name. In fact, Ken, the only thing that he
wow.
could remember at the hospital, he didn't even know me. He didn't even know my name. All he knew was the price of that damn ring. He says, I don't know who you are, but why are you wearing my wife's ring?
Are you serious?
I am very serious. He
Oh
did
my
not know who I
God.
was. And
Wow, wow.
uh, literally everything stopped. I mean, that's what you do when you're married. You support each other, right? And I went into Nurse Linda mode. I went into, we got to fix this, we got to do that. I had been hired by a Northern California high tech company, and they would fly me out of LA on a Sunday night and bring me back from Silicon Valley on a Thursday night. So flying back and forth, I had to literally say, I have to stop. And now there was another reason why I had to stop. It was just before, his stroke. I remember Elena calling me, and I was in one of the corporate houses, and she goes, "Hola, mama, ¿qué tal? ¿Cómo estás?" And I'm like, "Oh my God, who's raising my child?"
Oh my
Right?
God. It didn't register. It took a second for that one to land.
I
Oh,
was like, this is just not going to work, right? I mean, and thank God I had Rosa with us until Elena was 11, but that's a whole different story. But now, that he's had a stroke, I need to stop what I'm doing. I need to be home. So I stopped what I was doing. There's no income coming in. My $1 million man went to zero. And I'm like, no, we've got enough. We can take care of things. We can do this. We can take care of that. But about maybe 15 months into his recovery, and I think I was the kind of person that reminded him that he had a handicap now. Dan, if you can't tell the difference between red, green, or yellow, do you think you really should drive a car?
right.
And so I must have represented a limitation to him, and he represented liability. I couldn't take my eyes off of him. My dad comes in from the barbecue, and he says, "Did you see Dan out there? He was."
Mm.
He turned the barbecue on and came in to find a lighter. Elena was on the other side of that wall. If he had lit that barbecue, it had blown up, and she would have been, well, I don't even want to think about what would have happened to her. But, this is what the next year and a half looked like until the first night of High Holy Days, where we were supposed to meet over at his parents' house for dinner.
The first
Excuse me.
night of what?
High Holy Day. So it's a Jewish holiday.
Oh,
It's Rosh Hashanah, it's New
yeah,
Year's,
yeah,
and
yeah,
there's big celebration.
yeah.
We're going to have that celebration at his parents' house, and he doesn't show up, and he doesn't show up, and he doesn't show up, and he was driving, of course. And I'll tell you, when I got home and realized he moved out, I'm like, what? You've got to be kidding me. I'm just all of a sudden, I am now in the realization that
Oh,
life has changed again in an instant. And not
You
only
didn't
his
see
life,
it coming?
I did not see it coming.
Oh my God.
I had no idea. All I knew was that, I was intercepting credit cards because he kept wanting to get credit cards. I had, uh, I asked him if, are you seeing anybody? Because, I'd see money disappear. I'd see, those were the small things. And when I hired a PI and showed him the pictures of, a so-called gentleman's club, all he could look, he just looks me straight in the eye and he goes, well, everybody needs a little love, with that funny, crooked little smile. But when he left, that was, I can't, I can't even begin to tell you what panic I had, what anxiety I had. All of a sudden, how am I going to pay for the house? I'm broke. How am I going to keep Elena in the school that I want her to be in, and the community that we're in? I'm broke. And not only am I broke, I'm broken.
Wow.
Because within 30 days of him leaving, my Irish twin that I was just talking about took his life. And I'm like, can
What?
anything else happen? Can and I didn't see that coming. Nobody saw that coming.
Wait, your Irish twin.
Yeah, my brother.
It
A
took
year,
his life?
a year and a week older than me. Yeah. And this guy had everything seemingly to live for. Two children, a life in Santa Barbara, what could be better, right? But when things change, when people change and they abruptly change, what do you do? For
Wow.
me, it was, I don't know what I'm going to do. I honestly don't know what I'm going to do. I mean, Elena had just started elementary school. She was in kindergarten.
Oh my
And
God.
I literally would walk her to the bus stop in the morning and come back, and I would schedule grief. I would schedule grief for 2 hours, looking at pictures of a brother, looking at the papers from the attorney, looking at, I was an absolute emotional wreck. And and I literally would just simply cry and cry and cry, and then take my shower and take my last cry before I would go and pick up Elena. Now this went on for, I'm going to say it seemed like months, but it was probably weeks, because I'm not one to sit and wallow in misery and make
Well,
everybody
well,
else
well,
around me miserable.
I
There's no
so I
time.
have I have a question though. Because I've been through, not that, but I've been through crap where it's like you don't know what you're gonna do. You feel like there's no hope. You feel like there's this is it. It's over. How do we survive this? I've been down to not my last dollar, but overdrawn in my account, and no,
What
and
do you
bad
mean I'm not
credit.
out of money? I still have checks.
Right, exactly. So
Right,
so what how are you in that moment? I mean, you've got a house in Malibu still, right? You had the
right.
house. You've got
I
a
kept the house.
you got all this stuff going on, and how the heck are you even eating?
It's some part of this is still a mystery to me, but fortunately, you know, uh, Rosa, who grew up in a developing country, in South Central America, and she didn't grow up with big stuff, so it wasn't like, I got to please Rosa. And Elena's just a kid. Hot dogs for lunch and dinner. Oh my
Yeah,
God, this is a kid's dream, right?
right.
And for me, who had an appetite, I couldn't even think about it. All I could think about, and there will be times in everybody's life, Ken, and I love the fact that you call those breakthrough walls, because you will break through. And there have been other times, where I was in a deeper emotional state where I contemplated, uh, you know, I think we all think about suicide when
Yeah.
I would be better off dead, or you'd be better off without me. And we all have those fleeting, silly moments, and not acting out on them. We think about that in our worst moments. But at this time in my life, it isn't just me now. It's, how do I take care of Elena? How do I take care of her? How do I give her the life? How do I give her this kind of start that she can have that I didn't have? She doesn't
Right.
have brothers or sisters, no competition. How do I do this for her? How do I keep her in this community? How do I pay my mortgage? How do I pay my insurance? How do I pay food? Let me just tell you, she was my big why. And when you have a why that's big enough, you'll figure out the how. You just will.
Wow. I hope everybody watching gets that. That's powerful. So okay, so talk about where did you go from there? You cried for weeks.
Oh, you're gonna
And
love this part of it. This is now the recovery. Okay,
yeah,
recovery phase. All right, everybody, pull up. We're
right.
not gonna crash and burn. So
Hold
I'm
up.
I
Oh, jeez.
I get in the shower and I remember that I was a legend in my own shower. I remember that I like to sing in the shower, right? So I started thinking, of the times when I was successful, when I was on stage, and who comes to mind but Mac Davis? So I start singing, "You picked a fine time to leave me, you heel." I just changed the words and I start thinking about that miserable lout that left me.
Oh
I'm
my
pissed.
god.
I am so mad. I had to get out of, oh my God, what did he just do to me? From the abandonment, the anxiety, the anger, I can't even begin to tell you what emotional state I could switch from moment to moment. But spending 18 months of my life helping this guy recover, and he walks out. I'm like, who
Wow.
does this? And
Wow.
so as I started getting more angry, I started thinking about, okay, well, sales, it's been very good to me. But now I'm looking around and I'm going, what the hell can I sell that could be so big that I can make a lot of money at? Because software, I mean,
Yeah.
we did, probably a couple of 100,000 a quarter. But you got to build out to that. And I'm like, nah, I got to have a quick pop. I got to do something. So I started looking around and looked at real estate. And I said, now homes weren't the value that they are today.
Right.
My house was under $1 million. And so looking at homes, and I'm thinking, I don't really like the residential real estate agent mindset. I don't want to have my picture on a card. Okay. I just
Right.
didn't. So
Right.
I
Right.
started looking at commercial real estate, and then I said, that's got to be easy, but what part of this, right? And because you need to kind of specialize. You don't just do everything.
Right.
And I started thinking, well, what do I know about? Most people will go in and start doing multifamily because everybody's figured out, we lived in an apartment once. So how tough could that be? So we can kind of relate to something like that. Not me. I didn't want to do that. Thinking about the apartments I lived in as an undergrad, every 6 months moving a piano. Can you imagine how crazy that was? My brothers
No.
hated to hear from me. Like,
That
hi, no, we're not going to move you. And so I started looking at, what do I know a lot about? Well, I know a lot about shopping and retail. So why not sell shopping centers? And that became my specialty. And so the first sale that I did, I had to be under supervision because I didn't know anything at the time. And that was 21 years ago. And I haven't looked
what?
back. I have not looked back. It has been a business that's been very, very good to me. And I can tell you that
Wow.
um, today, when I work and I work in what I'm doing, I'll work maybe 3, maybe 4 hours, sell a 4.5, and this is over a period of maybe 6 weeks to 8 weeks, 4.5 hours, and I'll make a solid six figures on that. And
Wow.
I love what I do, and I solve problems, and so that whole skill set of coming in from my childhood, developing that skill set throughout my life, I figured out the bigger the problem, the more people will be willing to spend for it. Isn't
And the
that the truth?
more you get paid for it,
Oh yeah.
right?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
So I
Wow.
sorted out and big problems, things that the attorneys couldn't figure out and gave up on, things that the title officer couldn't figure out. That's the kind of the weird little nuances in a transaction. Figuring out how to rewrite a lease, figuring out how to keep a big box in a retail center. Those became my specialties. And
Yeah.
in every single instance, every single instant. Every one of my clients have become multi-millionaires. So I call
Wow.
myself the millionaire maker, because if they take my advice, they become millionaires. They don't just do 1 million on a transaction. If they take my advice and I put them into a transaction, they'll walk out with 4, 5, and $8 million in a hold period of 3 to 5 years. That's kind of the sweet spot for
Yeah.
investors. 3 to 5 years.
In commercial real estate.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Wow. So you do
Yeah.
no residential.
I do residential. I have done a lot of residential for my clients. And so my clients tend to be legacy clients now. They'll send me their kids and say, teach them, or I want them to invest, and I only want them to invest with you. And so that's a
Wow.
wonderful, wonderful blessing and an acknowledgement that
Yeah.
I have built a career on trust and belief, and because when you're talking about people's money, you're a fiduciary. You've got to have them trust you. You've got to have
Yeah.
them know what you can do, that you can fix a problem. And I stand behind my business. I've had clients that bought something and a single tenant, and all of a sudden, the tenant leaves. I stand behind that. I'll go get another tenant and put it in, and I haven't charged that client for it. Now,
Wow.
I'll tell you, I probably am in the upper 1% in the entire country that stands behind their work as a real estate agent for their clients. I don't
Wow.
know of any other. I was in a transaction recently, Ken, and this was a residential for one of my clients. And we were real close on the deal. And the buyer came back and kept asking for things. And at one point I just simply said no. But if you want to make a contribution from your commission to help your client, I'll be happy to match you. I'll match you. I will if you will. Now, I don't have to give my money away,
Right.
right?
Right.
And it's not like I got so much of it. I just need to give it away. And if I'm going to give it away, I'd prefer to give it to something that I want to give it away. But in a transaction, I will if you will. I will
Right.
do this, and not one cent would they contribute. We canceled the transaction. And that is far more typical than something that I'll say, okay, I will make a contribution. Now I've had to stop clients, and I've let clients go that
Yeah.
will take advantage of that, because you're talking about a business where, you know, the principals don't want to see the agents make a lot of money. And especially in commercial real estate. So those are the clients you kind of weed out. The other ones applaud and are excited to pay you because they made so much money. And
Yeah.
so I can tell you without a doubt, if I hadn't taken the risk, if I hadn't maybe I wouldn't have taken that risk if I didn't have the kind of problem that I had to solve. Because
Right.
when you're solving problems, I like to think of it in any transaction. I don't care what kind of sale you are doing, you got to have a little bit of tension there, because that tension creates the environment where you've got to be opportunistic. You've got to be a little bit more creative. You got to think outside the box. And
Well,
I'll tell you, it's an exciting thing to do, because uh, a lot of people think, well, it's sales, and sales is easy, or sales is hard, or I never want to sound like a
yeah.
salesperson. I don't either. I'm a solution sell. Let me
I,
fix a problem.
I was thinking about this morning, and Sue Strickland, my buddy Sue, says so dynamic, and she's right. You are incredibly dynamic. But
Thank you.
I was thinking about, because in my first book I wrote, I quoted Dr. Wayne Dyer saying, "Pain is the predecessor of all wisdom." And I think about, like, I'm like, well, wait a minute, that would make me a very wise man then, and I'm not sure. But I think that, look, it shows on you. You don't even have to have a conversation with you, from my perspective, and it exudes from you. It just shows that you have this wisdom and this I don't know, drive. Like, you have this drive. It's very, very apparent in you. So
Thank
let
you.
me ask you a question, because I know you've done like $750 or $1 million in sales, or more now, probably a lot more.
Yeah, this quarter is almost approaching almost 20 million.
That's insanity.
It is. It's crazy.
Wow. That's incredible. That's just incredible. So let me ask you a question. And this is based on your opinion. The number one answer to this is fear. I ask this question of everybody. So you have to do better than fear.
Okay.
Because I know for a fact it's deeper than fear. What? Okay, I've been broken homeless and I've been wealthy, and wealthy is way better, right? So what do you
Yeah, money
think?
fixes a whole lot of problems.
It does. I don't care what. I love what Grant says. He said, Grant Cardone says, a guy walks up to me after I give a speech and says, Grant, money, not everything's about money. And he goes, and I looked at him and said, you're broke, aren't you? Like, only broke people say that stuff.
This is so
But,
true.
but, like, what do you think holds people back in life from having real financial success and joy, freedom, happiness, just having the whole thing? What do you think is stopping people in life from having it all?
Mindset. Mindset is everything. Mindset will run your business, but moreover, mindset will run your life. And if your mindset is scarcity, you will always have scarcity. In mindset, if you believe that, like you grew up with thinking money is the root of all evil, then you will just simply in the back of your mind subconsciously find ways to sabotage your success, sabotage your career, sabotage the love in your life, sabotage the freedom that you could have from all the expression of what that money might be able to bring. And so mindset, in my opinion, is probably the number one reason, because look, bad things happen to people. You
Yep.
can live in it. You can decide, okay, I'm a victim of this. And there are victims of things, okay? Plenty of victims of things. But it isn't what you go through, it's what you and how you get out of and go through to get to the other side. You don't give up, you don't wallow, you don't stay there. Yes, take the time to have that grief, that deep grief that comes from a loss, that deep grief that comes from being violated, that deep grief from being um, uh, uh, and I can't even think of the word because my mind won't go there. Which when I think about what my husband did, and
Yeah.
at the end of the day, it's you, because people will look at where are you in your life, what are you doing, and the circumstances that you were in. Did you stay in them? Did you wallow in them? Did you just stay there, or did you figure out a way to get out? And nobody gets through this life by themselves. Ken, I've had plenty of people that have helped me in my lifetime, but I will tell you, surround yourself with better people around you, because it makes you think differently. It makes you get up. It makes you, in many, many ways, do things that you might just go, I don't really feel like doing that today. I could slide on this one today. I'm not saying that you can't procrastinate and put things off, but
Yeah.
eventually in your business, it's going to show up. So what is it in your life? What is it that you want in your life? I do this in presentations and I speak a lot. I'll get up and I'll have a stack of $20 bills and I'll say, who likes money? Do you like money? Do you like money? Do you like money? Who wants a 20? And everybody's got their hand up, right? Everybody's got their hand up. I want it, I want it, I want it, I want it.
Right.
And do you want some money? Do you want some money? And finally, when one person figures out he's got to get up and come get that 20, now everybody else starts doing it, right?
Yep.
And the point that I always make, and it's a simple analogy and simple truth. You want something, get up and go get it. You don't say, I want it. I really want it. I'm going to use a think system.
Yeah.
Okay. That might have worked for the music man, but I'll tell you what, mindset is everything. I will
Amen.
not be stopped.
Amen, amen, and amen. Mindset and then action. Take freaking action.
Oh,
That's
yeah.
what you're saying.
Take
Get
action.
off your ass and go get the 20s.
And when you're taking that action, don't be afraid to make a mistake. Fall forward.
Yes.
Because if you never try something, you'll never know if it worked or it didn't work. Okay. I mean, there are people that are watching right now that I know that they've had setbacks. We're all going to have a setback. Okay. And, I think about this every night at 8 o'clock, I get a phone call. And if I don't get that phone call, I make the phone call. And when I don't get that phone call, I worry. And so one morning I called my mom and I said, "Hey, you didn't call last night." And she said, "Yeah, I hit my head." And I said, "What did you run into?" "Well, I bumped into a chair. Then I turned around and I hit my head." And I said, "What happened?" She goes, "Well, somebody moved the furniture." Okay. Mom's blind. So if you go moving furniture, that's going to, something's going to happen. And what I learned out of that comment from her was that bumps are coming for you. Bumps are going to come for you in your business. Bumps are going to come for you in your health. Bumps are going to come for you in your relationships.
Yeah.
How do you get through it? And so I started putting up, those bubble tubes, those long tubes that you have in the string things. I started putting them on everything around doorways and everything else. Mom doesn't hit her head anymore, right? You
Right.
figure out what to do. You figure out how to keep things from happening in the wrong way, and hopefully, other people learn in that process. And I'll tell you, you never know what kind of an example you're going to be. I had no idea that she was watching.
Your
And
daughter.
I never pushed Elena to do anything. I never punished her for anything. She was just a great kid. And if I had known I was going to have such a great kid, I would have had a half dozen of them, honest to God. But you don't know. And when she went off to college, this is a kid that had never stepped a foot in a boat without hanging and clinging on to me, right? But she walked on to the crew in a D1 school. And at 100 pounds, she became the coxswain. Coxswain is that person that sits in the boat, kind of leaned back and lays, and then steers a boat like this with their finger on a wire. And 8 women in a boat backwards, and she's telling them how to row around. I'll tell you what, I never
Wow.
thought leadership really spoke to her, and yet it did. She was in. I was out in the garden pulling weeds and saying, "Hey, come on down. That girl can grow a vegetable now." I was like, "What happened? You never wanted to do this when you when you were growing up." She says, "No, but I do now. I saw enough when I was a kid."
Wow.
You don't know who's watching.
That's
So
right.
be the best that you can be. Be the best example that you can be, and live your life with joy. Live it, because there's too many things that can get you down. And I
Yeah.
love to see the expression on people's face when they're amazed that I've done something for them. And that gives me great joy. It gives me, great hope when I see other people do exactly the same thing. So hey,
Wow.
Jeffrey, great to see you. Thanks for joining. And I'm just like, wow, life will just simply happen. But I want life to happen on my terms as much as possible. And I got to
Wow.
tell you, all these decades that it is a joy to wake up. I have joy in the morning. I have joy at night. I have peace, and I have peace in my life. And although it was 21 years ago, he passed about a year or so ago, but 20 years, he lived on 20 years after this. And I'll tell you that I would do it again. I would help it, because if I hadn't been home, I would have come home to like a Luther Vandross situation.
Wow.
And because Luther Vandross had the same kind of stroke and he obviously didn't survive. So 20 years having a life, I said, take the money, take all the stock. I can make it again. You're kind of handicapped. You take the money. I'll take the house.
you said you said you're kind of handicapped. Oh my god.
Well, it was true.
When,
His skill set and his ability to be able to work was over. So
oh my
that is a
god.
handicap.
I
You
know.
know,
I just the way that I love that though. That's your strength. You're like,
take it.
hey,
I got more. There's more back here. I
right,
don't know where the
go,
tree is, but
go
I'm going to
take it
find it.
all. I'm good. I love that. I freaking love that about you. You got it. You can't. I think the number one thing I love about you is you and you know, you and I are good friends. We spend a lot of
Yeah.
time working together on Zoom meetings,
Yeah.
and you know, one thing I know about you is you refuse to be a victim.
Victim? No. Cir- Circumstances happen and things that I can't control. But I'll tell you what, um, you done me wrong. That's your fault.
Yeah,
That
I
is your
love
fault.
that.
That's on you. I'm not going to chase you down. I'm not going to waste my time getting revenge. I am going to, my revenge is live well and live better.
That's
And I
so
have.
awesome. Wow. Linda, you are amazing. One last question for
Okay.
anybody who, you know, I often tell I had a car repossessed in front of all of my employees one day. And that was like the most humiliating moment I feel in my life. I was like,
I
how do
understand.
I come back from this? They all are freaking out, thinking they're not getting paid. And they were, I just wasn't. And, you know, I remember thinking, you said it earlier. I remember thinking, what's the point of even being here anymore? Like,
Mm,
why even be here? And I can remember I mean, a split second thinking that, right? Like,
right.
how do I go on from here? But for people who are watching, who've been, who maybe their electric is getting shut off tomorrow, or
Yep.
a car just got repoed, or whatever. They're trying to figure all of it out and they just can't seem to make it all click and work. We've all been there where you feel like you can't make it click and work. What do you say to that person to help them get through to the next moment?
It's not simple because if it was simple, everybody would figure it out and figure out how to do it. So you have a challenge right now. And you can't think about that challenge and how to get through it while you're thinking about all the things that can go wrong. So, in a worst case scenario, let everything go. Because if you have that ability that you created and you've gotten once, you can do it over and you can do it over and you can do it better. So, if you lose something, they're just things, right? You can replace things. You can't replace people, but you can replace things, stuff.
Yep.
I didn't mention that before I left Los Angeles, I lost everything. I had a house. I lost that to the partner. I lost my car, repossessed, lost my contract, not paying attention, lost, and go to San Francisco and think, life. And then it got worse. If you don't think things can get worse, they can, and they will, and they do. So get yourself in the mindset that says, I'm going to get through this because the only way out is through. The only
That
way
is
out.
so good. Wow. That's powerful. Linda Kaye, thank you. I really, I love you. I love your story. I love your energy, everything about you. Where can everybody follow you?
So you can find me at Linda K 360, LINDA K 360.com. So that will lead you to all kinds of things, from my social media platform to videos to courses to all kinds of things, or even contact me, call me, I'll help you.
And it's Linda K
360.
360.com.
Yeah.
Hold on, I'm gonna
And
scroll
you'll
that
see a
across.
couple of videos of me talking and up just the letter K.
Well,
You
look,
can find me at that one too, because I have a redirect on that one. But Linda, LINDA K 360.
got it. Got it. All right, I'm gonna put that back up here.
And
There it
I
is.
don't know what I would do because I do a podcast also, and I had no idea how to do half the things that you do on here that make it look so simple. And I am so grateful for not only friendship but our professional, demeanor with each other that supports each other. But you never make me feel like an idiot, and there are plenty of times that I act like one. So thank you.
No,
Thank
you're
you. Thank you. Thank you for all your help.
you
And thank
are
you for
the
having me on the show.
furthest from an idiot that I've ever met. So you're an amazing woman. Linda, thank you
you.
so much for being on today and sharing your soul, your spirit, everything. If
My
you
pleasure.
would stay with me, though, I'm going to end the live stream, but we can chat for a minute.
Thank you. And
Everybody
thank
make
you, everybody, for joining us today. This is
yes.
such a pleasure.
Yes, it's been amazing. So make sure you go to lindakaye360.com and follow Linda everywhere on all the social medias and watch for her. She's got some really big stuff coming up. So
I'm coming
Linda,
for you.
she's not playing. She's not playing. Thank you so much. We'll see y'all later. Linda, thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Bye-bye.